The morning sun cast long shadows across New Geneva's spaceport when the Zalarian ships descended from the sky like metallic vultures. Captain Sarah Chen had been reviewing supply manifests when the first reports came in. 27 vessels, each the size of a city block, hovering over Earth's major population centers. The message they broadcast was simple and chilling. People of Earth, we are the Zalarian Empire. Your species shows promise, but your males are weak and your technology primitive. We claim your females for breeding purposes. Resistance is futile. Sarah's blood ran cold as she watched the holographic display in the command center. Around her, other officers stood frozen, processing what they had just heard. The audacity was breathtaking. These aliens had just declared their intention to kidnap half of humanity like they were shopping for livestock. Admiral Morrison's voice crackled through the comm system, steady despite the circumstances. All stations, this is Admiral Morrison. We are now at condition red. I repeat, we are at condition red. The first abductions began within hours. Zalarian shuttles swept down over cities, using some kind of energy field to paralyze and transport women and girls. The beams were selective, ignoring men entirely. Sarah watched in horror as news feeds showed thousands of human females being lifted into the alien ships, like harvest being collected. The Zalarians had clearly studied humanity. They knew human males would be protective of their females, but they had miscalculated how that protection would manifest. They expected tears and pleas for mercy. Instead, they got something else entirely. In Tokyo, Dr. Yuki Tanaka was in her laboratory when the beam hit her building. She felt her muscles seize as the energy field wrapped around her, lifting her toward the waiting shuttle above. But Yuki was not just any woman. She was a quantum physicist who had been working on classified defense projects. As she rose toward the alien ship, her mind raced through calculations. The beam had a resonance frequency. Everything had a resonance frequency. Fighting against the paralysis, Yuki managed to activate the emergency beacon on her wrist. The signal would reach the defense network, but more importantly, it would reach her husband, Kenji, who worked in the same facility. Their marriage was built on more than love. They were partners in science and partners in war preparation. Meanwhile, in the underground bunkers beneath Earth's major cities, something was stirring. The Zalarians had made their first mistake. They assumed human civilization was like theirs, centralized and hierarchical. They thought removing the females would break human will to fight. They did not understand that human women were not just breeders or civilians. They were soldiers, scientists, leaders, and warriors in their own right. Lieutenant Maria Vasquez had been in the middle of a training exercise when the abduction beams struck her base. As she was lifted toward the alien ship, she managed one final transmission to her unit. "Remember the backup protocols," she said, her voice steady even as she disappeared into the metallic belly of the ship. Her commanding officer, Colonel James Harrison, understood immediately. Maria was not just a soldier. She was one of their top demolitions experts and had been working on a classified project involving quantum explosives. The Zalarians thought they were taking a helpless female. They had no idea they were bringing a weapon aboard their own ship. The aliens' second mistake became apparent when they tried to process their captives. The Zalarian ships were efficient machines designed for quick raids on primitive worlds. Their holding cells were built to contain frightened, helpless beings who would cower and submit. They were not designed to hold humans who had spent generations preparing for the possibility of alien contact. Dr. Elena Petrov had been abducted from her research station in Siberia. The Zalarians saw a small, quiet woman in a lab coat. They did not see the cybernetic implants hidden beneath her skin, the combat modifications that she had volunteered to test for the military. As soon as the paralysis beam released her in the holding cell, Elena began her work. The cell walls were made of an unknown metal, but Elena had tools they could not detect. Her implants included molecular disassemblers, that could break down any material given enough time. While her captors celebrated their successful raid, Elena began methodically weakening the cell walls and passing information to the other prisoners through coded taps. On Earth, the reaction was swift and absolute. Every government, every military force, every civilian organization united with a single purpose. The Zalarians had touched what humans considered most precious, and they would learn what that meant. General Patricia Wong stood in the Pentagon's war room, surrounded by representatives from every nation on Earth. The room buzzed with activity as reports came in from around the globe. The aliens had taken nearly 50,000 women and girls in their initial raid. "They think they understand us," General Wong said, her voice cutting through the noise. "They think we are like them. They think human females are weak and human males will crumble without them. They are about to learn how wrong they are." The plan that emerged was unlike anything in human history. Every resource, every secret technology, every experimental weapon was put on the table. Projects that had been theoretical for decades were fast-tracked into production. The global economy shifted to wartime production in a matter of hours. Dr. Robert Kane, head of the Terra Defense Initiative, stood before the assembled leaders. "The Zalarians have technology we do not understand yet. But they have made critical errors. They have our people, yes, but they have also given us access to their ships. Our people inside those ships are not helpless victims. They are Trojan horses." The first phase of retaliation began with something the Zalarians did not expect: complete radio silence. Every transmission from Earth ceased. To the aliens monitoring from orbit, it appeared that human civilization had collapsed at the first show of force. Their cultural database suggested that primitive species often shut down when faced with superior technology. They were wrong. In hidden facilities around the globe, humanity's greatest minds worked with desperate efficiency. The Zalarians' energy weapons operated on principles that human science could reverse engineer. Their ships' hulls had been analyzed from the fragments left by their landing burns. Their biological makeup was being studied from atmospheric samples left by their shuttles. Most importantly, their psychological profile was becoming clear. The Zalarians were a species of conquerors, but they were also supremely arrogant. They believed their technology made them invincible. They believed other species were inherently inferior. These beliefs would become their downfall. Captain Sarah Chen found herself in command of a hastily assembled strike force. Her ship, the UES Retribution, was one of 12 vessels that had been secretly constructed in lunar shipyards. The Zalarians had been watching Earth, but they had not been watching the Moon, Mars, or the asteroid belt, where human industry had quietly expanded over the past century. The ships were armed with weapons that existed only in theory until that morning: quantum disruptors that could tear apart the fundamental forces holding matter together, gravity bombs that could create miniature black holes, plasma cannons that burned hotter than the cores of stars. But the most powerful weapon was human fury channeled through scientific precision. As the UES Retribution and her sister ships powered up their engines, Sarah thought about the message they would send to the Zalarians. It would not be a plea for mercy or an offer of surrender. It would be something the aliens had never heard from a species they had tried to conquer. It would be a declaration of war. The Zalarians in their orbiting ships detected the energy signatures too late. By the time their sensors registered the approaching human vessels, the attack was already underway. The humans had not launched a desperate, emotional counterattack. They had planned a methodical, devastating response that would teach the galaxy what happened when someone threatened humanity's families. The battle for Earth's daughters had begun, and the Zalarians were about to discover that they had not conquered a primitive world. They had awakened a sleeping giant that would show them what war really meant when humans had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The first shots of the war were fired simultaneously from 12 different directions. Captain Sarah Chen watched as her tactical display lit up with targeting solutions that had been calculated by the combined processing power of every quantum computer on Earth. The Zalarian ships, massive and imposing as they were, had been mapped down to the molecular level by human sensors they had never detected. "Fire!" Sarah commanded. The quantum disruptors struck the alien vessels like invisible hammers of pure physics. The Zalarians' shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and projectiles, simply ceased to exist as the disruptors unraveled the quantum forces that held their atoms together. Holes the size of city blocks appeared in the hulls of ships that had seemed invincible minutes before. But Sarah knew this was only the beginning. The real battle was happening inside those ships, where 50,000 human women and girls were turning captivity into the enemy's worst nightmare. Aboard the Zalarian command ship, Dr. Elena Petrov had spent the past 18 hours systematically dismantling her prison from the inside. Her molecular disassemblers had eaten through 3 bulkheads, and she had reached the ship's primary data core. The aliens had made another critical error in their assessment of human females. They assumed that small stature meant weakness, and that civilian clothing meant civilian capability. Elena was a cyber warfare specialist who had volunteered for military-grade augmentation. Her nervous system had been enhanced with quantum processors that could interface directly with computer systems. As her fingers touched the alien data core, she smiled grimly. The Zalarians were about to receive an education in human ingenuity. The virus Elena uploaded was not just code. It was a learning program that adapted to alien systems faster than their security protocols could respond. Within minutes, she had access to ship schematics, crew locations, and most importantly, communication arrays. Her message went out to every human captive on every ship. The liberation had begun. Lieutenant Maria Vasquez received Elena's signal while pretending to cower in her holding cell. The Zalarians had separated the captives by age and perceived threat level, placing military personnel in maximum security areas. They thought this would prevent organized resistance. They did not understand that human military training included worst-case scenarios they had never imagined. Maria's cell was in the ship's armory section. The aliens had placed their most dangerous captives closest to their weapons, believing their security was impenetrable. They had not counted on Maria's specialty in demolitions extending to alien technology. The explosive device she constructed from components of her own cybernetic implants would not harm the human prisoners. It was designed with surgical precision to disable the ship's gravity generators and life support systems in the alien crew sections only. As the device activated, Maria felt the familiar satisfaction of a plan executed perfectly. On Earth, the second phase of the human response was beginning. The lunar shipyards had produced more than just warships. Hidden construction facilities throughout the solar system had been building something the Zalarians could not have anticipated, a fleet designed specifically to counter their technology. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of humanity's newest superweapon, the UES Vengeance. The ship was built using principles reverse-engineered from Zalarian technology, but improved with human innovations. Where the aliens relied on brute force energy shields, humans had developed adaptive armor that learned from each attack and became stronger. "Admiral, we have confirmation from the infiltration teams," his communications officer reported. "Our people inside their ships have disabled 70% of their defensive systems. The Zalarians are experiencing catastrophic system failures across their entire fleet." Morrison nodded grimly. The aliens had expected human females to be helpless victims. Instead, they had brought weapons specialists, cyber warfare experts, scientists, and engineers aboard their own ships. Every human woman they had captured was now a saboteur working to bring down their captors from within. The Zalarian Emperor Vexitar stood in his flagship's command center, watching his invasion force crumble before his eyes. His tactical officers scrambled to understand how primitive humans had developed technology that could penetrate their defenses so easily. The reports coming in from his ship commanders made no sense. "Emperor, the humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered," his chief tactical officer reported. "Their attacks are coordinated across impossible distances with perfect timing. Their technology should not exist according to our analysis of their civilization level." Vextar's confidence was eroding rapidly. The Zalarian Empire had conquered 47 worlds using the same tactics. Overwhelm the primitive defenses, take their breeding stock, and watch their civilization collapse into submission. It had never failed before. "How are their females fighting back?" he demanded. "Our intelligence indicated they were the weaker gender, useful only for reproduction." His intelligence officer consulted the rapidly updating database. "Sir, it appears our cultural analysis was fundamentally flawed. Human females are not a separate caste. They are fully integrated into their military and scientific institutions. We did not capture breeding stock. We captured their warriors and scientists." The revelation hit Vextar like a physical blow. His empire's entire strategy was based on the assumption that taking females would demoralize the males and eliminate future population growth. Instead, he had given the humans access to his ships while leaving their military and industrial capacity completely intact. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was proving this point at that very moment. The quantum physicist had spent her captivity studying the Zalarian energy systems from the inside. Her cell was adjacent to the ship's main power core, and she had been listening to its resonance frequency for hours. Every machine had a frequency at which it would vibrate itself apart. She had found the Zalarian's frequency. The device Yuki constructed from her personal belongings and the metal from her cell walls was elegant in its simplicity. It would not destroy the ship immediately, which might harm the human prisoners. Instead, it would set up a harmonic resonance that would gradually tear the vessel apart from the inside, giving everyone time to escape while ensuring the ship could never be used for raids again. As alarms began blaring throughout the Zalarian fleet, Captain Sarah Chen received the reports she had been waiting for. The sabotage operations inside the enemy ships were proceeding ahead of schedule. Human captives were systematically taking control of alien vessels from within, while the human fleet attacked from without. "All ships, this is Captain Chen," she broadcast to the human fleet. "Execute Operation Homecoming. Bring our people home." The ships of Earth's fleet moved with precision that amazed even their own crews. Each vessel had been assigned specific Zalarian ships to disable and board. Specialized rescue teams were standing by to extract the human prisoners, while combat engineers prepared to capture alien technology intact. But the humans were not just fighting for rescue. They were fighting to send a message to the galaxy that would echo for generations. Any species that threatened human families would face consequences beyond their imagination. The boarding actions began as human ships latched onto disabled Zalarian vessels. The aliens found themselves fighting in their own corridors against enemies they had dismissed as primitive. Human soldiers moved through the ships with the cold efficiency of professionals who were fighting for their children's future. Staff Sergeant Jennifer Walsh led her team through the corridors of a Zalarian cruiser, following the route mapped by the human captives who had been sending intelligence for hours. The aliens they encountered were utterly unprepared for the coordinated assault. Their weapons were designed for subjugating civilians, not fighting trained soldiers in close quarters. "Remember," Jennifer called to her team as they cleared another section, "we want prisoners. We need to learn everything about their empire, their technology, their weaknesses, their home worlds." The Zalarians had come to conquer. Now they were learning what it meant to be conquered by a species that viewed the abduction of their women and children as the ultimate declaration of war. As the battle raged across Earth's orbit, Emperor Vextar made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He activated the emergency beacon that would summon the full might of the Zalarian Empire's war fleets. What had begun as a simple raid was now a full-scale conflict with a species that had proven far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The humans had wanted this war to end quickly with the rescue of their people. Now it would become something much larger. The Zalarians had just escalated a local conflict into a galaxy-wide war, and humanity was about to show the entire universe what they were truly capable of when pushed to their limits. 6 months after the first Zalarian ships fell to Earth's defenders, the galaxy had learned a new truth. Humanity was not the primitive species everyone had believed them to be. Admiral Patricia Wong stood on the bridge of Earth's newest flagship, watching through the viewport as the remnants of the Zalarian Fourth Fleet burned in the void of space near their former colony of Kepler 442b. The war had escalated exactly as the humans had planned. When Emperor Vextar summoned his empire's full military might, he had unknowingly given humanity the justification to unleash technologies they had kept hidden for decades. The galaxy was about to discover that Earth's primitive civilization had been preparing for interstellar conflict since the first radio signals had revealed they were not alone. Dr. Elena Petrov, now serving as head of xenological warfare, reviewed the tactical reports from their latest victory. The Zalarian Empire had sent 12 full battle fleets to crush the human rebellion. 3 of those fleets now existed only as expanding debris clouds. The remaining 9 were in full retreat, carrying terrified survivors who would spread word throughout the galaxy about what happened when humans went to war. "The Zalarians are requesting a ceasefire," her communications officer reported. "Emperor Vexatar is offering to return all remaining captives in exchange for peace negotiations." Elena smiled coldly. The aliens still did not understand. This war had never been about just rescuing the abducted women and girls. Those brave souls had already been recovered in the first 3 months of fighting, many of them having taken control of their prison ships from within and delivering them to human forces intact. This war had become about ensuring that no species would ever again look at humanity and see weakness. It had become about teaching the galaxy that human females were not prizes to be taken, but warriors to be feared. It had become about rewriting the cosmic order to place Earth at the top of the food chain where it belonged. Lieutenant Maria Vasquez, now Captain Vasquez after her heroic actions aboard the Zalarian command ship, stood in the war room surrounded by holographic displays showing the current state of the conflict. Red markers indicated Zalarian positions throughout their empire. Blue markers showed the advancing human fleets that had emerged from hidden bases throughout human space. The biggest surprise for their enemies had been discovering that humanity's civilization extended far beyond Earth. While the Zalarians had been watching one world, humans had quietly colonized hundreds of star systems using stealth technology that made their settlements invisible to conventional sensors. The primitive species had been building a secret interstellar empire for over a century. "Captain Vasquez," General Wong's voice came through the comm system. "Status report on Operation Righteous Fury." Maria consulted her tactical displays. "General, our forces have successfully captured the Zalarian shipyards at Vega Prime. Admiral Chen's fleet has secured the mining colonies in the Rigel system. Colonel Harrison's deep strike teams have eliminated 3 more Zalarian command bases. The enemy's production capacity is down to 30% of pre-war levels." The strategy was elegant in its brutality. Rather than simply defending Earth, humanity had gone on the offensive throughout Zalarian space. Every military installation, every shipyard, every colony that supported the Empire's war machine was being systematically destroyed or captured. The aliens who had thought to raid a primitive world found themselves fighting for the survival of their entire civilization. Emperor Vextar sat in his throne room, reviewing reports that grew more desperate each day. The humans fought like no species he had ever encountered. They showed no mercy to military targets but spared civilians. They captured technology and studied it with frightening efficiency. Most terrifying of all, they learned from every engagement and adapted faster than his forces could develop new tactics. "How many worlds have we lost?" he asked his military advisor. 47, my lord. The humans have captured or destroyed every installation in the outer territories. They are advancing toward the core worlds at an unprecedented pace. Vextar's hands gripped the armrests of his throne. In 6 months, the mighty Zalarian Empire had been reduced to a fraction of its former glory. The species he had dismissed as primitive was dismantling his civilization with the precision of a master engineer. "What do our intelligence services say about their capabilities?" he demanded. His intelligence chief consulted a datapad with trembling hands. "My lord, we have gravely underestimated them. The humans have been preparing for interstellar warfare for much longer than we believed possible. Their technology is not just advanced, it is specifically designed to counter the weapons and tactics used by every known spacefaring species. They have been studying us for decades while we ignored them." The revelation was devastating. The Zalarian Empire had been preparing for war against primitives. The humans had been preparing for war against them. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood in the laboratory aboard the research vessel UES Curiosity, examining captured Zalarian technology alongside scientists from a dozen human worlds. The aliens' equipment was advanced, but predictable, built by a species that had conquered through superior firepower rather than innovation. Human technology, developed through centuries of conflict and competition, was proving superior in almost every category. "The analysis is complete," she reported to the Science Council. "Zalarian weapons are powerful but inefficient. Their shields are strong but inflexible. Their ships are large but slow. Most importantly, their technology has not evolved significantly in over 1,000 years. They became complacent after establishing their empire." This complacency was humanity's greatest advantage. While the Zalarians had grown soft from easy conquests, humans had spent generations pushing the boundaries of science while preparing for threats they hoped would never come. When those threats finally arrived, humanity was ready. The war's turning point came during the Battle of Zalarian Prime. Emperor Vextar had consolidated the remnants of his fleet around his home world, preparing for a final desperate defense. He expected the humans to launch a massive assault that would result in heavy casualties for both sides. Instead, Admiral Morrison arrived in orbit with a single ship. The UES Retribution, now equipped with technologies captured from defeated Zalarian forces and improved with human engineering, appeared above the planet like a dark omen. Its message to the Emperor was simple and terrifying in its implications. "Emperor Vextar, this is Admiral Morrison of the Terran Federation. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. Any delay will result in the permanent sterilization of your world's surface. We have the power to crack planets now. Your own technology showed us how." The threat was not empty. Human scientists had reverse-engineered Zalarian planet-killer weapons and improved them beyond recognition. Where the aliens could destroy a world's surface, humans could now shatter the planetary core itself. The weapons had been built not for conquest, but for demonstration. The galaxy needed to understand that humanity now possessed the ultimate deterrent. Vextar's surrender came 37 minutes later. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the space station that now orbited Zalarian Prime, watching as the former emperor was led away in restraints. The war crimes tribunals would determine his fate, but his empire was finished. Zalarian colonies throughout the galaxy were either declaring independence or requesting protection from the Terran Federation. The rescued human women and girls had become symbols of something larger. Dr. Elena Petrov now served as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, using her experience as both prisoner and liberator to reshape interstellar law. Lieutenant Maria Vasquez commanded the security forces that ensured no species would attempt what the Zalarians had tried. But the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity. The species that had been dismissed as primitive was now recognized as the dominant military force in known space. Races that had considered humans as potential prey now sought them as allies. The cosmic pecking order had been permanently rewritten. Dr. Yuki Tanaka published her final report on Zalarian psychology 6 months after the war's end. Her conclusion was simple and chilling. The Zalarian Empire fell because they fundamentally misunderstood human nature. They saw our women as targets and our men as obstacles. They failed to recognize that human males and females are not separate castes but equal partners in a civilization built for war. When they threatened our families, they did not break our will to fight. They focused it into a weapon that dismantled their entire society. The galaxy had learned its lesson, but humanity was not finished teaching. Earth's fleets now patrolled star systems throughout the known galaxy, protecting younger species and hunting down slavers and raiders. The message was clear. Any species that preyed on the innocent would face the same fate as the Zalarians. 5 years after the first alien ships had descended on Earth, Ambassador Elena Petrov stood before the Galactic Council and delivered humanity's final statement on the war. The Zalarian Empire believed they could take our daughters and we would submit. They learned that human females are not prizes to be won or possessions to be taken. They are warriors, scientists, leaders, and defenders of our civilization. Any species that threatens them threatens all of humanity, and humanity will respond with the full force of our technological superiority and military might. The council chamber was silent as representatives from hundreds of worlds absorbed the message. The age of easy conquest was over. Humanity had shown the galaxy what happened when predators encountered a species that refused to be prey. In the end, the Zalarians had been right about one thing. Human females were indeed precious to their species. They had simply misunderstood what that meant. They were not treasures to be hoarded, but partners to be cherished and defended. The aliens had learned too late that threatening humanity's most precious possessions would unleash a fury that could burn entire civilizations to ash. The galaxy was safer now, protected by a species that had proven itself capable of both devastating warfare and merciful victory. The humans, who had once been dismissed as primitive, now stood as guardians of cosmic justice, ensuring that no empire would ever again mistake compassion for weakness or kindness for vulnerability. The war was over, but its lessons would echo throughout the stars for millennia to come.